This Todd-versation is brought to you in part by Splendid by Porvenir, with promotional consideration from Volcano Produce.
Hey everybody, how the hell are you doing? I hope you're doing well. You know, I say this every time we start one of these shows. That's my wish for you every day, that everybody's doing well, having a good day on your path in life and making good choices and good decisions. But more importantly, you're inspiring people along the way and uplifting, because that is how we're going to win the day, kids. I am thrilled to have you join us today. I'm thrilled to have my guests here today. I just one of my favorite people on the planet. He has got a heart of gold. He is just a genuine gentleman. And no more introduction. That's strong enough. I think that's pretty key. I mean, that's pretty, I'm like, I'm hugging you through the Zoom screen, baby. That's what I'm doing. Please, everybody, put your hands together. Whatever you're doing, take a moment to pause, hang out with us today, because our guest is we're going to have a great conversation. Please, everybody, welcome the CEO, all around great guy from Homegrown Organic Farms. Please welcome my friend, Scott Mabs. My brother, welcome.
Thank you, Todd. No, glad to be here. I know we've been talking about doing this for a little while, and excited to actually have this happening. So yeah, glad to be doing it.
Me too, man. I'm such a big fan of yours. I'm such a big fan of what you guys are about. Your impact on this industry, to be able to see what you've done, not only in the organic space, but the industry as itself. You lead with integrity. You've got a company that is one that if people don't know, you need to get to know these folks and what they believe in and why they believe in it. We're going to touch on a bunch of that today. But yeah, truly, my brother, it's an honor to have you here. I'm super, super excited. Like I do with all my guests, if you wouldn't mind, just give everybody a quick little 411 of who the hell you are. Because I would read your bio, but you don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you.
You bet. No, I can give you a little bit. So I'll go back. It's kind of important that I do start back when I was a kid, and you kind of look at, okay, how far back do you want to go? But I'm a third generation grower. My dad, my grandfathers were all growers, mostly citrus. Grew up in the valley here in the San Joaquin Valley, little town called Ducor, a couple hundred people. It was elementary school there was about 80 kids in total. And so grew up in a wonderful way. I mean, out on the ranch, enjoying that reality of things. Went away to college. And while I was away at college, the farm went under and ended up going bankrupt. My dad had to sell everything. And it was really due back into if you remember the 90 freeze and the 98 freeze, those were two freezes that were markers in the citrus industry here in the valley. And I remember going out and seeing tree trunks split right down the middle due to the freeze, and a sad time, for the family, but also, there's always things always work out for reasons, and it was interesting to watch my dad have to walk through that and to deal with that, and how he did that with such integrity and dealt with it in such a good way. And I was thinking, I was going to a small private college back then. I'm like, why didn't they pull me out of college? They should have pulled me out of college, because
they probably didn't want you home.
And they were paying for my college, but they never mentioned it, and they had me finish school and do all of that. And I was just so grateful for that type of deal. But had that history, actually decided that, when I was growing up, what I knew of farming was hoeing weeds in 100-degree weather. Right. Just not very fun experiences. And really never learned the business side of it. So when I graduated from college with a biology degree, I was married right after that, and we moved back to Indiana, where my wife Christy is from. And we spent about 5 years back there. Got involved in a instrumentation company, totally unrelated to produce. I didn't want to be anywhere near ag, just because of the experiences that I had had growing up. And I came to realize that there was kind of a whole separate business education at this company. And it was a really neat company to work for. They were an international company and based out of Germany, and really got a nice business education there. And then at that point, Christy and I was traveling with work a lot. And we had a couple little kids at home, and it was like, okay, we don't want this to be the reality of our family life long term. And so we started looking at other options, and that's when we ended up moving back to the Valley here, and had my first job with California Citrus Mutual, which is a grower association,
Yeah.
and got back involved in the industry. And at that point, I had a little more understanding of what business is about. And then also had Citrus Mutual was a great role to understand the industry as a whole. It's like, you work for those grower associations, and you see the industry as a whole, and you see what it's dealing with and going through, and really kind of set my foundation for getting into the ag industry and being a part of that. I came on board with Homegrown. Used to be called Sierra Heights Marketing when I came on board, and that was back about 14 years ago.
Yeah.
That came on board as the director of sales and marketing, and then after about 5 years, I moved into the CEO position, into that role, but it's been a great. I mean, one of the I'll mention this some more, but one of the greatest things about coming to work for Homegrown originally was the ownership. John and Cindy France and Tom and Karen Avenillis were just great people, and
Yeah.
we'll expand on that a little more later on. But yeah, so that's a little bit of my bio and background, and yeah, I have 4 kids, been married, I think 27 years, something to that.
You think, great. You just said that in front of 71 countries listening to this show. You just said, I think. Good luck.
Well,
Yeah, right. Hey,
I have a wonderful life.
The sofa's quite comfortable, I'm sure.
There you go.
I love it. Well, I got to come back around what you said really quick, talking about what your folks went through, right? And the fact that it was this path of integrity, right? And I say it all the time, we're on a path. We don't know where our path is taking us. It's our choice to make left turn, right turn, up, down, whatever the case may be. But, you stay committed to it, you stay on it, you stay focused and this and that. And to hear the story about your dad and how he led with integrity was something like that, kept it from you, right or wrong decision or not, but wanted you to finish school, how important that was. I'm sure, and at the age that you were, that had to be probably a heck of a lot more impactful than if you would have been 7 or 8 years old. Yeah. Because you kind of started walking that path through osmosis in some ways, right? Towards the latter part of that walk for them. And then to see yourself in that position. And then fast forward a little bit about who you associate with now. And quite frankly, your leadership team, your ownership group at Homegrown, I mean, lead with integrity with everything they do. The Francis have been around a long time. I've had a great pleasure of getting to know them a touch, and they're wonderful people. And so strong backbones is a big thing. And I think you learned that from your old man and what he had to go through. And now I think you probably carry that. It seems like you carry that based upon your personality and how you run the company forward. And I think it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. It's a lot of things in life that you don't have control over, right? A lot of circumstances, but you always have control over how you respond. And so how you respond to something is under your control. There's a lot of things that you're not going to be able to stop or change, but the response is so critical. And that's it. Yeah.
100%. Well, talk to me a little bit. Give everybody, if you wouldn't mind, just tell everybody a little bit that doesn't know what Homegrown Farms is. Yeah.
So Homegrown Organic Farms, by itself, we are just a sales and marketing company that represents growers into the marketplace. So we'll sell to whatever retailers nationwide and into Canada. We do a little bit of export, but it's mostly domestic North America focused. And we handle main crop types that we handle are citrus, berries. We do a tree fruit program, so your peaches, plums, nectarines, apricots, and then we also do some fall fruit along with that, like kiwis and pomegranates, persimmons. And then we also have a grape program that we handle. So we have a couple of packing operations. Part of it is that we are not just Homegrown Organic Farms. We're part of something larger than that. AgriVision is the name of our umbrella company, I like to term it as. And AgriVision is involved. AgriCare is a part of that. AgriCare is a farm management company. So AgriCare would be the farming end of what we do. So we have a lot of ranches that are farmed by us. We either have partners on them or they're owned by us. That are what we go out and market into the marketplace.
Thanks for joining the Todd-versation. And now, a word from our sponsor. Splendid by Porvenir has long been recognized in the fruit and vegetable industry for its quality, volume, availability, and timely distribution. Did we mention that we have the best mangoes on the planet? Our decades of experience in providing a wide range of superior products throughout the year gives our customers and retailers alike confidence in Splendid products to deliver excellence 100% of the time. When only the best should be on your table, trust Splendid's commitment to exceeding your expectations. We are the best because we do it right.
Yeah, the mothership's real.
Yeah, exactly. So
and doing some big things, which I want to talk about a little bit too. I mean, they're doing some cool stuff.
yeah, so part of what Homegrown Organic Farms too we moved into just a couple of years ago is we became an ESOP as an employee stock ownership plan. So we're 100% ESOP now. So the owners, John and Cindy France, Tom and Karen Avanellis, sold the company to the employees. Sold AgriVision as a whole. So the packing operations, the farming operations, the sales and marketing, and all those different pieces are a part of that ESOP now. So we have irrigators that are a part of the ESOP. We have, the packing supervisors and the cold storage people, all the different team members it takes to make all of this happen every day are now have all employee ownership. And
That's impressive.
we're excited about that. That's a new endeavor for us, and we're learning a lot as we go along in what that means and how. But the team members are excited about it, and it's a great opportunity for them, really for no cost to the team member. It's just really given to them from the ownership. It's pretty exciting.
Why did it matter? I mean, what was the impetus of making that decision? Because that's a big decision, and ESOPs are challenging for businesses to run. They don't all work, right? And it's it is in some ways it's like business cat herding in some aspects. So why did it matter? I mean, what was the impetus for that decision?
Yeah, the big piece is that this was probably going about 8 or 9 years ago. We set up a board for AgriVision, so a board of directors. So instead of just being Tom and Karen and John and Cindy, the ownership felt that this is be good for us to put a board in place. And their whole point of that was to make this more than just the Frances and Avanellises over the long term. How does this go beyond just John and Tom? And what that looks like, and look at this more from a generational standpoint and those types of things. And so that was the actual beginning thoughts, but didn't have any idea about, okay, well, let's make this an ESOP. It was more, but how do we create something here that has longevity to it? And so that board was put in place. We went down that path, and then as the Frances and Avanellises started to look at, okay, how are we going to create an exit plan? Now there were offers on the table, like there has been for lots of ag companies to sell out to some large capital firm or different opportunities that way. But we also recognized that we really valued kind of our culture and who we are, and the ownership really valued that, in that we would not give that away. And so that was where, okay, how do we do that? How do we not give that away, but allow the ownership to have an exit plan in place? And as we went through that process, the ESOP, rose to the top as far as being the best way forward in that. Like you said, Todd, are there challenges with ESOPs? Oh yes, most definitely there are, and we're continuing to work through that. And learn those challenges as we go to a certain extent, but it's been a good experience so far. I mean, it's exciting to be able to provide that type of additional potential benefit to the people that come here every day and put their heart and soul into it each and every day.
I love it, man. Well, you made a great point. You sell a company and your culture doesn't necessarily follow that sale. And if you've created something good, it had to be incredibly motivating for everybody top to bottom to be a part of something, to wake up every day and say, I've got skin in the game. I'm just not punching a time clock any longer. Everything I do benefits my family in such a greater way because I'm at the table now and have an opportunity to build something. That's a powerful thing to do. It really is. And to your point, it is a challenge though. It's got its ups and downs, but people kind of get into it and it is motivating. There's no doubt.
Well, and it comes to the point of, we want people here that are willing to take that challenge and say, hey, we're going to get up and we're going to really work hard at this. We know in business, even though you work really hard, it doesn't always translate into success.
No.
That's the game of business, right? You can work really hard and have failure. And so I think there's also that recognition that people have to accept that and say, you know what, I'm gonna work hard, but for the chance of success, but it's not guaranteed either. Yeah. So
I love it. Well, I want to kind of back up a little bit and talk about the business itself, because one of the things that I am really concerned about in today's agriculture world is the small to medium-sized farmer, especially in the organic sector. I think that the world is changing incredibly fast. I'm not necessarily sure everybody has their eye on the ball on what it may look like, what things are going to start to look like. But to my eyes and what I do from my perspective, it certainly is an area that I keep trying to elevate a little bit. And when I look at what you all do, you represent over 100 farms inside your portfolio. You've got more than 7,000 acres. So I went to public high school and I had to actually stop and think about this for a second. But the quick math tells me that family farms are pretty much at the core, right, of what you all do. And so I did some digging when I realized that, and I didn't really know that. I didn't know that there was that many, family farms working with you all. So it got me brain turn a little bit. And one of the things I did, I found some stats in the USD. I thought this was really interesting. It's back in 2020, so it is what it is. It's probably changed a little bit, but 51% of all the farms in this country had less than $10,000 in sales. 81% of all the farms had less than $100,000 in sales, and only 7.4% of the farms had sales of $500,000 or more. Yeah. Fascinating to me to hear those. It's a fascinating statistic. So my question based upon that and kind of framing this up a little bit with what you all do is, why do we need to protect and support and really drive awareness, do you think, in the conversation around what's happening, which is the decline of family farms in America?
Yeah. That's a big subject. There's because it's difficult. You even look at, as we've been involved, as I've been here for the last 14 years, I see it changing before my eyes, where there's less and less family farms. There's growers deciding to sell out, and who's buying those acreages? Well, it's not another family. Most often it's some sort of capital firm, and we work with capital firms, and they're not all bad.
No.
But it's it is so expensive now to be a grower. That's one of the major issues. To get into it and to be a grower, to have the family farm, you really have to have something that's unique. You have to have something that sets you apart, and really know who you are and what you do, and do it extremely well, because the realities of scale, and what scale, the fact that scale is being more and more a requirement of farming, has created a really hard situation. My family has acreage associated to it. There's has about 500 acres or so that are associated to my family personally. It's some of it we market in homegrown, other is even there's some conventional involved. It's a kind of a large family, and so there's a lot of different pieces associated to it. But that family farm, has been, my grandpa Patterson started that, and he grew it when, from being just 20 acres in the first purchase to, being up towards of 500 acres. But even at 500 acres, you're still struggling with some of the scale realities. It's getting harder and harder. And we're, as homegrown, we hope to be a place, we've tried to be a place where a family farm can come and be taken care of.
Yeah.
From a transparency standpoint, giving them real information to make decisions off of, but then also providing helping them compete in the marketplace we've always talked about our growers are our rock stars. We try to promote them. We just came out with that Grown by series, and that's the whole point. Those are family farmers. Those are people that if you understand what's happening there at the farm and you understand their story, there's value associated to their fruit because of that.
Yeah.
And trying to get people, and I know the consumer wants that. The consumer likes that. There's some hurdles, in regards to helping the consumer access that information. From the fact that there's just so much information, right? I mean, the age of information there's just so much overwhelming consumers that you have to figure out how you can plow through all that and actually get to the consumer.
100%. And look, you said it eloquently. Family farms matter. We have to make family farms matter. They're the backbone of what we do. I mean, you take a look at 81% of the farms in this country doing less than 100 grand. But do the math. That's a lot of money when you do the math all in. I can't. That's way too big math for my public high school education. I'll defer to that because I'm sure I'll have to take a shoe off or something to help me count. But one of the problems that I think that we have and what we're facing today is that the conversation around food has become too easy in this country. We don't value food like we should in this country. We don't appreciate food in this country. Our expectations are it better be at the grocery store. I mean, we saw that with the COVID pandemic. It's not COVID anymore, by the way. We're calling it COVID. We're trying to make it a little sexier. But we lost our minds. We couldn't find toilet paper.
Yeah.
Right. And because what do you mean? And I find that to be one of the most dangerous narratives that's out there because we don't have a conversation really very strong in this country about why we should be appreciating food, why we should be appreciating family farms, why it matters. And I think it's really dangerous that we don't have that. And it's why I think, in my mind, something that I really believe in is taking that message downstream into the schools and working with the next generation of young kids about how to eat better and make those choices. I firmly believe if we can convince young children how to eat better, we can change a lot on this planet really fast, from healthcare to climate to all kinds of issues. But we've got to value food, and it's not a conversation. It's not from the narrative of I don't have any money for food. I understand that's a whole separate symptom to this problem. But when you go into the neighborhoods and there is no fruits and vegetables in the bodega, right? And it's Monster energy drinks and a bag of chips. That's not valuing food, right? That's not helping anybody win the day. So I say,
I think, to Todd, part of the whole impetus of organic was that, right? Or is that? It's the fact that we need to understand our food more. We need to understand the fact that how this is grown does matter. And that's the foundational aspect of that's how organic started. I mean, back, and from the beginning, and I think is still a part of what the organic movement has all been about. It's helping people understand the value of that fruit or that vegetable, and that it's not just an item or a SKU. There is so much behind what that is, from the nutritional aspect of it, to how it's impacting our earth, to how it's impacting the people that are involved in developing it. And that's where I think all of those continuing to help people understand that at a much deeper level, that was the foundation of organic. And it wasn't just don't spray with your pesticide, your synthetic pesticide. It was a much bigger holistic picture than that.
100%. I go back and thinking about what it was back before electricity, and we had draft horses plowing the fields right back in my beginning of my career. But you're 100% right. And it was an alternative to what was being presented. And if you think back 40 years ago, you take a look at the history of regulations and this and that, You could spray a lot of crap 40 years ago on the earth. You could do a lot of really bad stuff that you can't do today, but you could back then. And so that movement was like, again, the alternative to what the best option is. And I think that a lot of times when it comes to our food in this country, we are sheeps, looking for a shepherd in a lot of ways. We're just led to the trough, but we're not thinking about what's in the trough. And I think we're getting better at that now. I think the industry has done a good job of elevating that conversation. But I still believe we've got a lot of work left to do to pick up the next generations, to get them to understand what the real value of food is. Again, it's not about that bodega trip. So wave your magic wand, brother. Come on, I'll give you a moment right here in the spotlight. Tell me how do we do it? How do we teach people the power of agriculture and really the value of food?
Well, I think that that's why we're doing what we're doing right now.
Good point.
It's the organic messaging. I'll talk a little bit more about EFI and what we're doing. We'll through that. We have this regenerative organic program that we're starting up. All of these things play into helping consumers understand the value of fruit, the value of produce in a much deeper way. And I don't think it's not necessarily just one thing, right? I think it's a whole lot of things that are happening and are I think making an impact. I mean, what we look like 30 years, what we looked like in 1990 or 1980 is totally different than what we look like today. And
there was no looking at anything back then. There was nothing on the shelves back then. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
And I grew up with that. I mean, I grew up on the farm, spraying paraquat, I'll share this. My dad has Parkinson's today. Why does he have that? I don't know. We don't know. But I also know that there was a lot of spraying going on back then with a lot of really harsh chemicals that doing things that he shouldn't have been doing. And it's a sad reality, but that is the reality.
Right. And you can find DDT, DDE in the soils out here in the valley. It still exists, right? It doesn't go away. And again, I think that's to your point. We were the alternative to all that. And I think that, but I also think that there's an obligation that we need from the retail sector as well. And they walk a hard line because they've got 500 items they're selling that are shitty for you. Right. Yeah. But that's part of the business model. And it's not, and that makes it really, really hard too, because again, it goes back to that value proposition. We have a tendency to really want food cheap, and cheap has a hidden cost. And we're paying for that in a lot of ways, whether it's our climate, whether it's our health, whether it's our groundwater, whether it's a lot of things. Yeah. And so I think it's got to be this collective effort that we've got to come to recognize the value that food has and about being food secure, right? Because, you can have the biggest military in the world, but if you are food insecure, you're screwed.
Yeah, it's not going to work out well.
It ain't going to pencil really well. So I think those are really, really, important things to talk about. And I want to get into what you guys are doing with the Equitable Food Initiative, because I think this is, to your point, these are some of these big lifting things that need to be happening, that companies need to be looking at, that I think raises the bar, that opens consumers' eyes a little bit, that helps tell a story, that helps drive value into our food. And I think it's incredibly important that these conversations continue to have. I know this platform, I'm not going to stop having these conversations till I stop, till they kick me off or wherever this, leads us. But because I think it's so incredibly important, we have to keep talking about it. So talk to me a little bit about the Equitable Food Initiative. Let's give you a kind of a two-part question and just let you run with it. A, what is it for everybody so you can get them up to speed? But talk about why it matters and why it mattered to you all.
Yeah, I can first. So the Equitable Food Initiative, EFI, is a program. It's kind of, I put it in two parts. It's a management philosophy, and it's a farm worker or a employee benefit program. Okay, so it's really, I see it in two specific parts. The foundation of the deal is that a lot of times within the farming arena and what we do every day, you have management sitting in the office, or sitting in their truck driving around, and looking at how to best maximize the crop and do all those types of things. And then you have all the people that are conducting the work, everything that needs to get done out there. And a lot of times there's a fairly big disconnect between those layers. There's the engagement between those layers is minimal. It's more like, you go out there and, I need you to prune these trees. Here's how to do it. Make sure you do it right. And that's the conversation. The Equitable Food Initiative was based in the idea honestly, around food safety.
Right.
Because when you have people all the way through the system that truly care and understand and are educated, they get it in why food safety is important, or why why employee safety is important. And there is the walls or the gap between management and person doing the work in the field is
Right.
closed. And that comes together. And how is that done? It's done through trainings. It's done through working sessions with them. It's done through all sorts of things that EFI sets up within the management philosophy of how these things are to be done. And that's kind of explains about what it is. It's more of there's a lot of soft to that, right? It's like, okay, you're not going to, A plus B plus C equals D. It's not that type of a thinking. It's much more of it's more like like we run our business here at Homegrown on a certain operating system. Like, this is how we run Homegrown. Well, it's the same thing. How do you run the farm? What does that look like? How do you have meetings? How do you bring people together to find solutions for problems? And rather than that just being a manager doing that off in some office, no, it's coming together with the people and coming to solutions. One example we had was one of the guys brought up the fact, this was in one of these management meetings, the fact that, hey, one of the problems we have is that whenever the guy's getting ready to move the tractor forward during harvest, you know what? It's a safety concern, because that guy starts to move that tractor and you've got people around the tractor that, could very easily get ran over, could get a leg underneath the tire, something to that effect. And one of the guys on the field, they came up with the idea, well, hey, let's just, the guy driving the tractor has a whistle. And when he decides to move that tractor forward, he's blowing the whistle. So everyone knows, get out of the way.
Right.
Those are little things, but they're things that matter. They're things that actually make a difference in the field, in how things get accomplished and done correctly. And if you don't take time to look at things like that and come up with solutions together, you just kind of stay where you're at. And that's not a good place to be.
No.
Continuing to improve it. And so that's EFI from the management philosophy. Then the other side of it is that retailers that are committed to EFI with our program provide a premium on the product that actually goes back to the farm, the worker. So those premiums get distributed back to the worker. And the way that we do it, it's done as a bonus program to the workers, the way that we've done it. But you can do it there's flexibility in that too.
Sure.
In that regard, but that's the way we've structured it right now. So
yeah,
we're pretty excited about our farm management company, AgriCare, became EFI certified this last year. In all of their operations. And then our stone fruit operation is 100% EFI certified. So now, between the different growers that are all EFI certified and everything, I think we're up to about 60% of our entire operation being EFI certified, which is a really exciting number. And we're looking to continue to grow that to get it as high as we can. So
I love it. Well, it goes back to the ESOP thing, right? It goes back to the fact that you're empowering people throughout the company to have a voice and to be a part of solutions, right? And at the end of the day, you want to talk about valuing food? They value food more than anybody because it's their actual livelihood.
Yeah.
Your food, the food that you're selling, the food that's going on a pallet, the food's going back on the truck, the food's going to end up in, Bumblefort, wherever it is incredibly valuable to everybody that's around Porterville. It's everybody in Ducor and everybody in Visalia and everybody that's in your neck of the woods that's working with you all. And I think it's really important that you hold yourself to a level of accountability back to the employees. Because again, I think it drives value back into the food. It's one of these things that we were just talking about. I think it's so important that we continue to move the ball down the field like this.
Yeah. The other piece, when we started looking at this and deciding, okay, is this a path we want to walk down, and engage with this? Part of it was too, is that one of the hardest things to communicate to a consumer is that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how do we help them understand what we're doing? And so we were able to look at this and go, well, okay, a lot of these things we're already doing because of the way that we've structured things within our organization. Well, why don't we, to get some sort of certification or third-party verification that we're doing this, was a benefit to help continue to build value into the fruit that is being sent to the consumer, and helping consumers see it in a different way.
100%. Well, look, accountability is really important, right? And I think accountability is about real food too.
Yeah.
Right. Making people understand what it is, making people understand that, look, everybody loves a potato chip. Let's not say we don't, right? Let's not run from it. Let's not hide from it. But the fact of the matter is, you need to understand what it really is. You need to understand its value in the food supply and what it is and how it was created. And we just don't think like that. We really don't, which is, again, why I go back to what I said earlier. It's so important that we put energy back into the schools and back into the kids, because school food matters, right? And those educations need to happen. Yeah. I love how you frame this up, and I want to go down the regenerative trail now, right? Because you're dipping your toes in regenerative ag, which is not the easiest trail to follow. Let's be honest, right? But there's also abundance of energy behind some certifiers trying to stay relevant. Yes, here comes the letters, kids. The value of regenerative to some people is no more than just checking a box on some paperwork, right? It's like, it's a feel good, right? It's not that true value of what you're trying to create or get that conversation. So talk to me, if you wouldn't mind. First question I'm going to throw at you as we go down this trail is why does regenerative ag matter to the future of you all?
Well, let's answer a couple of things about regenerative. So regenerative, first of all, it's like, okay, why is regenerative even a conversation today? What is the point of this regenerative? And I think the climate change story that's and communication around what carbon sequestration is kind of a big part of what regenerative ag. I mean, it's all associated to soil health, right? How do we get more organic matter into the soil? How do we create a really healthy soil profile, which honestly, has been one of the main tenets of organic from the beginning. I mean, that's, if you're not thinking about that from an organic perspective, well, then you're missing the boat. It's and so regenerative I see it as, okay, the basic tenets of regenerative farming are very much in line with a lot of the organic purposes and organic thoughts around soil health. There's some different methodology or different ways of thinking about it that are being brought to the table that are very specific to regenerative, which is great. We love learning those things, right? Yeah. That's like, how do we continue to build soil health, and how do we do that in a better way? Well, that's obviously the foundation of what we're doing, from a farm standpoint and what all that looks like. So that being able to understand regenerative at that basic. The other thing that I think we have to understand is that, when organic first came out, that came out of really the produce industry, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was fresh fruits and vegetables. That's where the beginning seeds of that took place. Regenerative is not starting there. Regenerative is starting in center store. Right. It's about the wheat. It's about the grains. It's about soybeans. It's about those types of things where this big regenerative conversation is really taking place at a very macro level currently. When we looked at it, we go, we want more soil health. We want to improve the health of our soils in our fields. And you know what? We're working with this, and we're seeing some benefit to it from soil health. And so that's been our main focus and how we've kind of walked down this path. And there's a lot of debate now, is regenerative and organic you can be regenerative, right, without being organic. Now, right. The other thing that's, I think, key to realize is that there is no federal certification or federal law regarding regenerative. So you can describe regenerative to be anything you want it to be. A guy could go out there and say, I'm regenerative, I'm farming regeneratively, and two different people could say that, and it could be two totally different things.
100%.
So that's some concern. That's a lot of concern there. Like you said, there's a lot of certifiers that are starting to come out with regenerative programs. We on our stone fruit program with Vern Peterson, and he's been working with that, and we're certified through ROA, the Regenerative Organic Alliance, and so we have an ROC certification now in that program, and we're engaged in it and walking down that path. There's a lot yet to be understood, and we're on the very, very, very beginning of what this is going to look like. So is it important to the future of homegrown, and what that is? I don't know that I can answer that yet. I think some of that story is still being written. I think there's some really neat things about regenerative in regards to soil health that we are continuing to work with to improve soils, and give in the end a better eating experience and better experience for the grower. That's the foundation of how we're working with it.
Yeah. Well, what I love about the conversation, it goes back to what I'm going to continue to harp on, is it helps drive the conversation around the value of food. But, regenerative is about principles, not necessarily practices. And to your point, you don't have to be organic to be regenerative. It's not easy to do. It's certainly not easy to do in a row crop format. There's plenty of people trying it. It's a challenge, right? But to your point, what is the learning that we take out of it? And I look at this in a lot of ways. And I think about this when I think about even the CEA industry, ag tech industry today. It's not so much obviously what they're doing today is important, but what they're doing today, 5 years from now, is what I'm really interested in. So when I think about what regen is, and I think that it's an important thing that we need to lead into. But what I'm afraid of, like a lot of things, local, sustainable, all natural. We start to greenwash these things. We start to greenwash. We start to water these things down to fit some narrative, to check a box for somebody to feel good, to think that they're going to command a premium for somebody without even stepping up to the plate. Because as it scales, right, one of the things that I'm concerned about as it scales, because to your point, it's not really, there's not any kind of, USDA is not involved really. They're trying to get their arms wrapped around and maybe understand it. Who knows where they take this someday. But, as it scales to include a wider variety of commodities, do you think it's going to hurt the messaging of organics because again, it's a little bit of this greenwashing can happen, creating maybe more consumer and retail confusion, or do you think it's going to help?
It's one of our concerns. And that's part of the reason we jumped into it, to help. We look at it as to help define it properly. That ROC and what they're doing, the Regenerative Organic Alliance, what they're doing is we want to support the things that we feel are helping to define it correctly. And not let it become some greenwashed word that has nothing behind it. So that's I think if we do that properly, it's like I look at it and go, well, how being regenerative but not being organic. Though I think that's a hard one to separate. It depends on how that certification is written and what that looks like. I think part of us jumping into it and, Vern Peterson wanting to jump into it was the fact, let's help define this. Let's not just be someone that's sitting back going, this is no good. But let's get into the conversation and really, support what we think is a good path forward.
Thanks for joining the Todd-versation. And now, a word from our sponsor. Splendid by Porvenir has long been recognized in the fruit and vegetable industry for its quality, volume, availability, and timely distribution. Did we mention that we have the best mangoes on the planet? Our decades of experience in providing a wide range of superior products throughout the year gives our customers and retailers alike confidence in Splendid products to deliver excellence 100% of the time. When only the best should be on your table, trust Splendid's commitment to exceeding your expectations. We are the best because we do it right.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We can lean into climate smart too. It's really easy to say climate smart. Oh, that feels really good, but what the hell does it actually mean?
Yeah.
Right. And, anybody can be climate smart, and it's just because it's an undefined term. Right. And I think, again, you go back to some of these things that are happening out there. I think we have to be really careful with that. So I love what you guys are about. I love the answer that you gave about, I don't have the right answer yet, but you got to get into the fray, and to raise the bar on how you present it to consumers, I think is going to be really, really important. I get real concerned when I think about some of this movement. One of the big things that I talk about is that my goal, I think, that I learned early on in this deal is like, how do we feed more people organic food, right? And so my goal for everybody, and my goal for this industry is, why can't you just feed the whole planet organic food? Yeah, it's a hell of a lofty goal, but I'd rather have a high lofty goal and keep striving every day than have a low goal and say I got it, because then what do you do, right? Yeah,
nothing's been accomplished that way.
100, yeah. And so when I look at some of the things we talk about with this regenerative climate smart, it gets concerning because we're getting a little tribal with some of this stuff. And I think that's where we start to get a little bit dangerous. Like, a greenhouse isn't a good thing to have an organic. Well, okay, how are you going to come up with enough food for everybody? I get that. I'm happy to hear your argument, but to me, what's the goal? The goal is to feed as many people as we can. And how do we do that? How do we raise the bar on everybody that organic remains that gold standard that is above regenerative, in the sense of, here's the gold standard that everybody needs to strive to. And same with climate smart, like organic is that gold standard. How do we strive to that gold standard? And I think we have to be really careful with that. I think we need to be thinking about how we grow our industry with more common sense than we did 35 years ago when we were flying by the seat of our pants. It's one of the regrets I have, is that we didn't have a lot of common sense. We didn't have that moment of pause. I talk about it all the time with packaging. Like, boy, the organic industry screwed the pooch on packaging, right? We all just said yes because we had no choice, because we were desperate to find shelf space, rather than say, no, we're the alternative. Let those guys package it. Let us be free out there on the shelf, and let that consumer understand what it is. So I think it's really, to me, an exciting time and exciting conversation. And I love the angle that you're taking. I hope more people get into the fray like you're doing, because I think it's how we're going to find solutions that are going to drive value back in the food. So kudos to what you guys are doing. Don't stop. Stay in the fight. Keep your voice heard.
Well, it's like you said, Todd. I think that what we learn today is what's going to affect tomorrow, right? I mean, and if we just stay the way we're doing things, and we don't change, and we don't make the effort to take the chance on something new, or we don't learn. And so we have to stay in that, and hopefully, through this, we can again build value into the fruit, into the produce, so that people understand that what happens in that field, and how that product is grown really does affect you.
Yeah.
And it has major impacts, whether that's the soil, the health of the earth, soil health, climate change, all those different pieces that there can be a lot of conversations around, well, what the degree of how that affects people, and what does that look like, and there's a lot of opinions, right, in regards to all of that, and a lot of political views and all of that type of deal. But the fact is, you just can't get around the fact that it does have an impact, and that value of that fruit is based in how it's grown. It is based in what goes into bringing that fruit all the way to the shelf, and to the dinner table where someone can consume it and enjoy it. And building out that value, like you said from the beginning. And I've always I don't know, you look at some of our export markets in Asia and some of those areas that they see fruit as something that's more than just a piece of fruit.
Correct.
They really see it in a much more it's given as a gift a lot of times, or those types of things. And not that we don't do that here, but we want to continue to raise the bar and raise the view of what that piece of fruit is.
Mhm.
And we're all we're on that path trying to do that. I mean, that's whether it's organic, whether that's regenerative, whether that's EFI, whether that's varietal development.
Sure.
All those different things play a part in that. And I hope that I hope that we can continue to make that piece of fruit something more that's really special in the consumer's eyes.
I 100% agree. And it goes back to everything we've talked about. It's about, putting that value back in food, and people recognize what went into that and what they're paying for.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think we go to the grocery store and think what we're paying for. We look at what we paid, but we don't think about what we're paying for. And again, cheap has a hidden cost. And I think we're seeing that so much today in this country. And that's why it's so important that companies like yourselves and others that are raising the bar on themselves. And quite frankly, you don't have to do it. Right. You don't. It's a choice that you made to raise the bar. And I think, and one of the reasons that I want to go down this trail with you is that I want people to recognize the fact that you didn't have to do it. You raised the bar, you're taking the money out of your back pocket, you're laying it out on the table, trying to make something work. But it's going to be incredibly important to us, again, next year, 3 years, 5 years from now, because it could change tremendously what it does to our climate, what it does to our health and everything else.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Exactly. Talk to me a little bit about something I know is really important to you. And I threw this in when I was talking with you, but talk to me about how much faith plays into your business and why it matters to your growers and your team and your customers and stuff.
Yeah, you bet. Well, we all have a foundation of why we do what we do, right? I mean, everyone has that, and the company, the founders, were very much, strong, had a strong faith, and really abiding by principles set out in the Bible and set out in those types of foundations, and built around. We have this little phrase in our mission statement. So our mission statement as a whole is to exceed our customers' expectations, provide the best money back to the grower, okay, and then display the love and grace of Jesus to all. So that love and grace, I mean, when we always talk about this when people come to work for us or that type of deal, is that it doesn't, whatever you believe about Jesus, that's up to you. That's no big deal. But we do know that he laid down his life for others. He died, was crucified for others. Well, that's a great example, right, of love and grace. And what that, how you love people, how you sacrifice things for people, how you show grace when someone does something wrong to you. I mean, and it plays out in so many different ways. And so we have that little phrase in there. So is faith, very important part of what our foundation of our company is. It flows through to our values. We have a number of values. One is to win as a team, to be humble, to exceed expectations, and then we have one to do the right thing, which we have this little phrase that called "no surprises," and we've used it. John France used this all the time when he was part of the company, and he would bring you in like when you first started working there, and he goes, I'm a grower. I'm used to dealing with problems in the produce industry. I just don't like surprises. So if there's an issue, something's wrong, just come tell me. It's okay. And it's transparency of communication. It's being integrity and all those types of things. But it's like, if we've got a problem with, the fruit that we brought in isn't working out properly, let's go talk to the grower. Let's not wait until we give him a check, 60 days later, and it's totally different than what he thought it was going to be.
Correct.
That's just not good operating. So,
100%. Well, and the reason I asked that question is it's something that I believe in really strongly, that we need to lead a lot more in this country, especially with love. And we need to come from a different place. We need to stop being angry about what we hear and start to appreciate what we hear for what it is. You don't have to agree with it. But if you come from a perspective of love, there's so many more things we can get worked out. We just don't need to be, again, I go back to somewhat tribal that we are, so much angry at other people that have opposing views. And having a business that's run by faith is uncomfortable for some people. There's a lot of businesses don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And
well, it's
okay.
Yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
like, what is love, right?
Yeah.
Love is kind, love is humble, love is not rude. Love thinks of others first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all those pieces that it's a word that we honestly overuse in our culture, right? I mean, love is used in so many ways in our culture, and in different manners. So sometimes it loses some of the importance of what that word is.
Hmm.
But it's foundational to what we do, and we constantly, every one of our meetings, we're talking about, well, how does that play out in our work? How does that play it out in how we treat our customers, how we treat each other, how do we treat our growers? I mean, we're not perfect. We got our problems. Our warts are pretty big sometimes, but you're trying.
Well, but I think when you lead like you lead, no matter what the situation, no matter what that path takes you down, there's no situation you can't tackle together because you start in the right place. You don't start by kicking the door open and screaming at everybody. I mean, look, those moments can happen. I was talking with somebody that talked about that exact thing about their business 4 generations in, with their family business. And she was sharing with me that we have a blowout in the office at 1 o'clock. It's a yelling contest. And then an hour later, it's like, hey, I'll see you at dinner at 6, right? Because they lead with love. And he goes, that's why we've lasted 4 generations.
Yeah.
Right. You have to separate that thing out. And I appreciate you sharing so openly with that. I just think it's really important to talk about. I think it's really important that people recognize that love is all around us. It's what we all seek. It's an important part. And to your word, it doesn't need to be, we need to value what that is too, right? And how that drives into our business culture. And it's super important to uplift people and to embrace people and to be the very best people we can possibly be. And I believe we start with love, you can solve a lot of problems.
You bet, definitely.
There's no doubt. So let's talk a little about what's next with you guys as we're kind of winding down, hanging out together. I mean, I know. Let's talk about this little HBF homegrown berry thingamabob you just decided one day to go do.
Yeah, so yeah, we've been busy. We've had one of the things that we recognized a couple years ago that as the organic space has become much more competitive. There's a lot of other grower marketers getting involved into the organic space and the items that we handle. And it's been difficult where in the past a grower would come to us and say, hey, I want to transition to organic. We say, great. You know what? Stay with your marketer, continue your transition, and then in a couple of years, when your transition, come to us and we'll market your fruit for you. Well, that doesn't happen anymore because every marketer has an organic program. And so that's we recognize that. We also some of with some of our customer base, the struggle of logistics is bigger and bigger and bigger. Logistics is such a huge decision-making point for a lot of retailers today, and with only being organic, that has been a bigger issue in that regard. Another point, and this will come back to the why the HBF deal, but another point is that our farming operation, AgriCare, and what we do as AgriVision as a whole, is we do have quite a bit of conventional product that we farm and handle and take care of. And so in all of those cases, we looked at it and go, okay, we probably need to have some sort of engagement into the conventional market space in order to answer some of those questions just from a competitive standpoint.
Sure.
And it provides a great on-ramp for additional organic acreage in the future, which would be very difficult to do without having some sort of an on-ramp there for that. So in all of those, in the process, as we were talking with HBF and I've known Doug Perkins for a while, and we started working through things, and it just came to a very clear. The picture became clear that this would be really good to bring HBF into the homegrown organization and make this a part of what we're doing. And what they bring to the table is a conventional blueberry program, along with they do some blackberries, raspberries, currants, and the kiwi berry. So one neat thing about there's some proprietary kiwi berry genetics that are a part of Hearst. And so that's now going to be a part of what we're doing in the future. And we're excited about doing that, and also having some organic program associated to that. So we're moving down that path, and
I
that's
love
been
it.
it's been an exciting adventure, and we're getting ready to kick that off into the marketplace, starting in the domestic California blueberry season. So here coming up at the end of April, beginning of May.
Yeah, right around the corner. Super cool. I mean, one thing I love is you don't sit still.
No.
Well,
No.
but I love to see you not sitting still, because I think you're out there, as we've shared and we've talked about them from a very, from a multiplicity of angles in this conversation. You guys growing, you guys continuing to be successful is such a positive light that we need out here in the industry. And it's such a great opportunity to, and I think you would probably be receptive to somebody picking up the phone and having a conversation with you about regenerative ag and the why, to the point of your question, right? How do we find it? How do we set the bar? How do we come up with something that makes it better for everybody? And I think the fact that you lead that way, you lead with love, you have a team around you that is incredibly supportive of what you do, all the more reason to keep highlighting and, continuing from the sidelines like I can do, cheering for your success, because, we need a lot more of you out there, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Todd.
Yeah, I appreciate you hanging out. I think anything else you want to say? Anything else exciting coming I didn't mention? I mean, anything, for what's next? I mean, how the berry after you got your plate pretty full of the berry deal. You don't want anything next for a couple of weeks, I'm guessing.
Exactly. We're done right now.
I love it.
Yeah, we need to do some implementation, and we're thinking about things, but yeah, we've got a lot of change happening right now. It's been good, but we're going to get this season kicked off with the blueberries and go.
I love it. Well, congratulations and continued success. And I'm thrilled that we got to hang out, brother. I really appreciate you.
No, good time, and appreciate it, Todd. Appreciate what you're doing with this. This is such a good thing for the industry. It's needed.
Thank you, brother. I that means the world to me. It really, really does. I enjoy this a lot. I love the conversations we're having. I love throwing things out for people to think about. I love the emails I get back asking questions or wanting to be engaged or meet somebody that I talk to. I'm so receptive to that. I'm so open to these conversations, because it's how we're going to change and win the day. We can't let the loudest voices, you can't let the 10% shout over the other 90. The 90% of us need to stand up, and we need to come together, and we need to lead with love, and we need to make changes to our food system that are going to be impactful, not just, enough to check a box or make people feel good. It's how we're going to win the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So thanks for being here, brother. You're welcome back, by the way. That open invitation and sushi, Porterville road trip.
Oh, there we go.
I'm on it. I appreciate you, brother. Everybody, thanks so much for listening and being a part of this today. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Scott Mabs, he's the real deal, kids. He really is. Reach out to him, talk to him, have questions. Go through it. Let's go through the motions and see how we win the day as an industry and come together and raise the bar on ourselves, which raises the bar on everybody else. That's where we win. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of it. Don't forget to check us out on social media, TLC_Todd-versations. Scott, you know why I'm on social media?
Why?
2 reasons. I have 2 reasons today. One of which, I'm really concerned about Tiger Woods' love life. And 2, I like to see Dave Chappelle piss people off. I find that to be incredibly entertaining. Otherwise, I don't care about social media. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We appreciate you. Much love to you. Remember, go inspire somebody today. It's incredibly important. It'll absolutely make your day so much better, and somebody else's. So thanks for being here. We'll see you soon. Take care.